Hello and welcome to Indie Incursion, an indie games podcast. We're your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week, I totally tripped myself up, and I was like, we're
doing stuff here.
Yeah. What I meant to say was your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week, we're bringing you 3 awesome indie games news stories before we hop in, give you some new stuff, and talk about some awesome indie games, or just one specifically, over at Kickstarter. But before we get into that, I'd like to introduce myself, Vaughn Hyde, alongside my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average Josh boys. And it's just him today. Nobody
just
else.
Me.
Yeah,
no
last
Chris.
week, Chris Penwell, great guest. Really enjoyed having him on. He brought a certain kind of, je ne sais quoi. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna be honest,
but he brought it.
Yeah, that could mean the most horrendous shit, and I have
Okay.
I would have just said it, so.
Yeah, no, we'll leave it at that.
It's like that one Madonna song where she talks about 3 ways, but I still don't know. I forget what the words are.
Ménage à trois?
You know? Yeah, there you go. Man, that's real obvious. I can't believe I couldn't think of it. I feel really proud of my intelligence today.
It's okay. We're all smart in some ways.
Yeah, leagues above right now. I'm feeling like the world's biggest man. That doesn't make any sense. All right, cool.
Nope,
so
still rolling with it.
So I have to ask a question of you. Have you ever eaten chili cheese like Fritos?
No, I haven't actually.
Man, have you ever smelled them?
No.
All right, well, I would say you're about to be in for a treat, but you're not going to actually experience them. So the experience you get with chili cheese Fritos here, because you haven't had them, and I can't ask you this, but the experience you get is deliciousness. It's pure, it's euphoria. It's amazing. Love the taste, but the smell is like butthole. It's like straight up butt. It smells so weird. It's like somebody just went to the gym and then that's their butt. Like, that's what it smells like. It smells like sweaty ass. Like, that's what chili cheese Fritos smell like. But you'll never be able to experience them. I feel like it will now be a requirement that you go out and buy chili cheese Fritos.
You know what's funny is I actually had, my wife was planning like it was some kind of event thing, and she bought one of those packs of like potato chips, like the Lay's multi-pack thing, and she was putting like a bag in everyone's little goodie bag thing with a bunch of other, like, it was like a hangover kit or something for some bachelorette, I think. And so one of the chip like combinations was that chili cheese thing, and me and my wife both looked at it and were like, ugh, that sounds disgusting, and instantly threw them away.
Really? Do you not like chili cheese stuff?
No, I wouldn't mind eating chili cheese, but like, I just don't think it's gonna be good from a chip. I don't know. I feel like it'll just taste nasty because it'll be so artificial. So I instantly was like, no, this will probably suck, and I just tossed them.
As somebody who absolutely loves chili cheese fries, I could tell you right now, they taste nothing like it. So if you ever do actually taste them, they're delicious, but smell like butthole. So,
well, if I ever come across a bag, I'll put my nose in it and sniff, and then I will continue to throw them out into the trash.
Yeah, like when you're walking in public and you see somebody crack open a bag,
I'll just stick my face right in it.
Yeah, just put your nose in it, take a big whiff. They're like, what the fuck, dude? And you just walk away. And like nothing happened. That's the way to live life, is to just fuck up other people's lives and then act like nothing happened.
You gotta be confident. You just stick your nose in it, sniff it, and be like, good butthole, and then walk away.
You're like, I'm so glad I experienced this moment. It's amazing.
We both did, you know? And then it's a good story for that person to tell, because he gets to go, or she gets to go to their friends or their family and be like, the weirdest guy went and just sniffed my bag of chips and then something about buttholes and walked away. They'll talk about that forever.
That'd be a fantastic moment. I mean, it would really suck, though, if there were a germaphobe and they're all like, his fucking nose was in my bag. Now these chips they're just disgusting to me. Now they just like throw up.
Well, you know what? I've got news for you. They were disgusting before.
I mean, you got me there, actually. I don't think a germaphobe would probably eat these. They're probably like, I would say bottom tier chips. Like, I don't know what a top tier chip would be, but I would say chili cheese Fritos probably be bottom tier. Have you ever had a Funyun before?
Yeah, I have. They're definitely not one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about the smell because I've never actually sniffed a Funyun. I just really like Funyuns, so.
Okay. All right. Well, good to know. I'm glad that our chip tastes are nothing alike.
What's your favorite kind of chip?
My favorite kind of chip?
You say those bullshit Hawaiian chips? I'm going to fucking leave.
Which Hawaiian chips? What chips?
There's these chips that are like, you know how you can get dinner rolls that are like Hawaiian dinner rolls that are like
yeah, they're just sweet rolls.
Yeah, they're fucking sweet rolls, and it's bullshit. So it's like the chip
what do you
version
got against
of
Hawaii?
Nothing against Hawaii, just
their
bullshit
fucking rolls.
sweet stuff, dude. Like something that's meant to be savory but is actually sweet for absolutely no reason, but disguises itself as a savory thing. So it's not like, it's not sticky. It doesn't look like it's going to be sweet. So I grab it and I try to make like, I don't know, a ham sandwich during Thanksgiving with it. I open it up. I put my like mayonnaise in there. I put my ham on there and then I take a bite and find out, man, this is a fucking sweet roll. And it just ruined my life.
Wow. That's, it's pretty extreme there.
Yeah, but there's like a chip version of that where it's like, it's just a sweet chip.
So it's just ruining your life.
Yeah, it's just a sweet chip. So, yeah. Have you ever had those?
Clearly I haven't because we just went through this whole spiel. But no, I haven't. I guess I'll have to. Like, what do they even look like? How do I find Hawaiian chips? Are they just called the Hawaiian chips?
You know what? I'm going to have to. Let's look up Hawaiian chips. I feel like this is probably not going to bring up what I thought.
Probably not.
Oh, shit. It totally did.
Oh, shit.
Hawaiian sweet Maui onion potato chips. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. I've never heard of those. I just keep thinking of the Hawaiian Punch character, but if they were chips, which sounds disgusting because it would be fruit punch chips.
Yeah, that sounds outrageous. I would hate that so much. I actually really like Hawaiian Punch, but I'm more of a fan of Tiki Punch because it's carbonated, but that's just me, you know? I like those knockoff sodas. So what's your favorite kind of chip?
It's going to sound super boring, but I love lightly salted.
Just anything? Just lightly salted
Lightly
chips?
salted, yeah. So I think it's Lay's. Lay's it's like in this bag, and it's a light blue bag, and they're called lightly salted. I love those chips because the way I eat chips is I basically take them and I don't calculate how big my mouth is or how many chips I have in my hand, but it always has to be just handfuls, and then I just munch. And for some reason, the chips taste amazing when it's like a giant mush of them in your mouth. I don't know what it is. It's crazy, but it tastes different when you have a ton of them in there, and it's delicious.
So my diet is basically just sodium. So, like, lightly salted chip is basically like blasphemy, but I feel like the reason it's so good is because you got the perfect amount of salt with all these chips in your mouth. Versus if you did it with just the normal chips, that's too much, dude.
Exactly. I'm trying to protect myself. It's clearly you're dying on all that sodium over there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a healthy boy, so I wouldn't be surprised if I was on my deathbed currently and just didn't know about it.
I mean, you're hacking up a lung over there. Clearly all the salt.
Well, I went to say something, and then you know when you go to say something, you inhale, and you, for some reason, had spit in your mouth, and you just, like, goes down the wrong pipe.
Isn't it amazing how sometimes the human body is, like, such an amazing thing, and then you'll do things like that, and you're like, why were we designed in a way that we do such stupid stuff? Like, our bodies just betray us. Like, when you're
like,
eating,
how did we live this long?
Yeah, exactly. When you're eating, and you're like, yep. I'm eating food in my mouth like I always do, and then you're like, you're gonna bite the fuck out of your cheeks, and it's like, why would I have done this? I've never done anything different.
I do that all the time. Yeah, consistently. Have you ever forgotten how to swallow? That's a dumb question.
What?
But
No.
That's never happened to you? You've never been like,
No.
okay, so it's not necessarily forgetting how to swallow, it's thinking about swallowing so much that you just can't.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Really? God,
I
dude,
have no idea what you're talking about.
that shit happens to me so much. Like, I'll be like, I'm like, okay,
How do you
I'm
eat?
chewing a sandwich, whatever, and I'll try to swallow, and I'm like, oh God, this is how I die.
Oh, no.
I just forget how to swallow, and then I'm like, how do I do this? What do I do with my mouth or my body?
Wow. We are really getting to the bottom of this intelligence thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a smart person, everybody. It's like just randomly I forget how to swallow. I really don't know how long a century is. I think Josh said the other Josh thought that was a joke. I don't know how long a century is. People say we are in like the 21st century. I don't know what that means, if I'm being honest.
It's the 21st. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, I've said it before, and I'm like, I mean, that could be 100% wrong. I'm just waiting for somebody to correct me and say that we're actually, like, in the 22nd century. I feel like the only reason I actually know about the 21st century is because of Phil of the Future. So, and Metabots is in the, like, 22nd century, so maybe that might be one, too. So what's a century, Josh?
It's 100 years, basically.
Really?
So 2001 to 2100 is the 21st century.
All right. I guess you know what? I probably won't live long enough to see the the turn of a century, so I don't think I have to worry about it. Honestly,
I mean, you already did.
Well, I mean, that's just that's like a cop out. I was barely born. I literally that was when
Your
I was
baby
forgetting
eyes
how to
now.
swallow, and it was acceptable. So
well, some things you just don't learn. You know, I still have trouble reading a clock often. So
you're like, I can't read old people clocks.
Old people clocks are tough. It takes me a while. Dude, it was very embarrassing actually. It was in front of my wife's father, and he's like, because I always wear watches, even though I don't know how to fucking read them. I do, but it just takes me a little bit longer because I just, when I was a kid, I was like, why am I going to learn that? This other clock just shows me the numbers. Why should I learn this old way of doing things? Little did I know, later when I grew up, I'd want to wear watches. But so my father-in-law looks at me and he goes, oh, what time it is? Like, I don't know why I said time it is.
What time is
it? What time it is? What time is it? And I look at my watch and I kind of stare at it blankly for like much longer than a person normally would. And he looks over at my wife and he goes, what's wrong with him? And I'm like, oh, no, it's 6:20. Like, I'm like, I've done the math.
When he wasn't looking, you actually pulled out your phone.
My phone. I'm like, oh, yes.
Do you just like the way the analog watches look, or do you just not know about digital watches?
No, I don't like digital watches. I like analog watches. They look much fancier.
Yeah, digital watches are fucking ugly. Unless they have a calculator in them, then you're...
You're such a fucking 5-year-old.
then you're cooking
Calculator
with peanut
watches,
oil.
bubble gum, these all the nasty flavored chips, the bottom tier. You're just a 5-year-old in a giant man's body.
Yeah, that's not wrong. Now that we've got that kind of out of the way, let's talk about Disco Elysium. I've heard you can accidentally break your neck in this game.
Yeah, speaking of doing dumb things, Disco Elysium. This is... How do I even start? So Disco
Holy
Elysium...
shit, we talked about how much of a dumbass I am for 13 minutes?
Almost 14 minutes, yeah. It's pretty crazy,
oh my
right?
God.
When I looked at the timestamp, I was like, oof. Anyway, it was a long intro. Disco Elysium, dude, this is... So it's weird because when you think of a game, for me, a lot of the times, a game is always something that I play for, generally for like a mechanic based thing. Like there has to be some kind of game loop where I'm physically into it. I've never been a person for point and click kind of games. Even though I definitely do enjoy like good stories that lead me and like actually pull me into the game. But with Disco Elysium, for some reason, I was so drawn into this game, even though it's basically like a visual novel. So it's so much fucking reading. Like I cannot
that's
stress.
what I've heard.
I cannot
if you're
stress this
illiterate,
enough.
you probably shouldn't play this game.
Yeah, you cannot. But it's so good. It's so weird, dude. So you basically, I'll start off with the main premise. So you're basically this detective who wakes up after a good amount. I think it was like 3 or 4 days of basically just this giant bender of doing a ton of drugs, drinking a lot, and you basically black out and you destroyed this one hotel room that you're kind of sleeping in, and you wake up and you don't remember anything. You don't know who you are. You don't know why you're there. You don't know what you're doing. But you walk out and you start talking to people, and they're like, yeah, you're the cop who showed up and was supposed to like figure out, like solve who got just killed and murdered. And you just did a bunch of drugs and you're just, jerking it off around like the place, like just messing around. And so you come into this now as the player and you're like, oh, damn, I'm an asshole. And you basically have to choose. And this is the first time where we talked about this a few episodes back, where you were like, yeah, people play role-playing games and they actually try to become that character in the game and play only as if they were that character. This is one of the first games where I was like, yeah, no, I can get like behind that idea. Like this is one of the things where I kind of want to replay this game and just play it as just a crazy drug addicted, like just asshole throughout the whole entire game, and just be like, this is the character I want to be throughout the entire thing. It's basically you try to actually solve this murder, but you get all of these different choices and all these different dialogues based on kind of who you want to be in the game. So what I mean by that is you have a number of different skills that you put points into, like an RPG, where you would basically, if you think about something like a Fallout, you would put points into something like persuasion, or you would put it into physique. But there's a ton of different skills that play into it that go well beyond like the basic Fallout of the like 7 skills they have, the special. And instead, each one of these is a piece of you that will actually talk to you in the game. It's really strange. You have this own inner monologue that's all of the different abilities you have will talk to you. So you have things like suggestion, you have things like authority, you have things like volition. All of those elements will actually talk to you, and based on how high your skill set is, it will give you clues into how to talk to people or how to go about solving the mysteries that are sprinkled throughout this town. You're basically in a desolate town where everything is kind of run by just the union, they call themselves, and cops are pretty much hated in this city. So everyone hates you. Everyone hates what you're trying to do. They have no respect for you. And you basically have to be this crazy, like, I just got here. I don't know what's happening. I have to deal with learning everything about the world around me and also trying to solve this murder that apparently is my job. And you go through, and it's just a long, like, you really feel like you're a detective. You have to solve this murder. You have to figure out and search for clues. You have to talk to all the people in town. You have to go about different skill checks for each of those abilities. Do you have enough physical ability to break down a door? Or do you have to search your way through, talk to someone to make them admit that, oh, you can get in through this way, or there's a key hidden here based on you having enough of a perception check. It's really interesting the way they've done it. And it's so fun, man. It, like, some of the stuff in here is so wacky. Like, because it's you talking to yourself and essentially going insane. Like, you basically, and the ending of the game I thought was a little weird because it does get in a strange supernatural place that I thought was kind of like, I don't know if it really needed that at the end, but
so I definitely have actually beaten it though.
Yes, I beat it. It took me, for that first playthrough, 27 hours.
Oh, that's not that bad, though. It
No.
seems like a lot of people, like, on GameSpot After Dark, they pretty much talk about this every episode, and they're reporting in, like, twice that amount, if not, like, more, it seems.
Yeah, so, and granted, there was a little bit more I could have done, because there are side things to do while you're actually solving the main murder. And that will help you along the way. And there's other people that you could talk to. But I still did a lot of what I had to do. I think probably why I was able to go through it so fast is just because I was very, very meticulous about who I was talking to, and using the actual book. You get like a book that gives you kind of hints to what you're supposed to be doing and clues. And so I just kept trying to maximize my efficiency with time, because the way time works in the game is actually really strange. You have a certain amount of days to solve this murder, and time will clock down every time you're talking with people. So anytime you're in an actual like dialogue, either with yourself or, you know, interacting with an object or talking to someone, time will start going throughout the day. But if you're just literally walking from one place to the next, it won't. So it was really interesting how you have to kind of think about who you're talking to and what you're doing depending on the day that's there. But there's enough time in the day where you can technically get away with it, but you have to be smart about when you do certain things, because there's cases where you have to do something behind your detective. Like you have a second partner who joins you early on in the game, and you have to do things that sometimes he might not like. So you're like, all right, well, it's time to go to bed at a certain time. Like he'll leave and you're like, okay, now time to do more stuff. So you have to like plan out accordingly what you want to do at what time to make it effective, I guess. But I think it's generally, if I was going a little bit slower, because I was trying to rush so I could finish to talk about it today. If I was taking my time, I probably would have hit more around the 30 hours ish. But I think, like I said, you could technically complete it even faster if you're not really paying attention to the side quests.
So this, something that I don't normally do, I really want to get Disco Elysium, and this is something I don't know if I've said on the podcast, but I save scum like a motherfucker.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I have an excessive amount of saves typically. I normally do 4 saves, so I have my normal save, my backup, like my backup's backup, and even more. So you actually have like save slots in Disco Elysium?
Yeah, you have a ton. You have a lot. So you can save scum as much as you want.
Well, that's pretty cool. What I was going to say was I actually don't think I will save scum in Disco Elysium, because it actually seems like there's interesting ramifications for you like failing like skill checks and doing all sorts of stuff. Like everything I've heard about this game is so interesting, and it seems not only about the kind of like, and this sounds weird, especially because this is like kind of a darker game it seems, but it's not just about this overall like dark murder mystery. It's also about like the hijinks along the way. Like I said earlier, really you could accidentally break your neck from nodding too much.
Yeah, the first thing you do, I fucking love that part. The first thing you do is you wake up in the hotel and there's basically your tie is on the fan. And it's like, oh, I want to get the fan off, or I want to get my tie off the fan. And if you fail that check, if you're too weak, you'll literally have a heart attack and die.
Yeah, I think on last week's episode of After Dark, they were talking about how somebody like sat in a chair and died. Like the chair was like, their body is so feeble and just so decrepit that they sat on a chair that they felt uncomfortable in and just fucking died.
Yep. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Like the writing of it is just so good. And it goes through a lot of very strange, like, it's just very political in certain ways, but you can go about it however you want, really. There's a lot of ties to much darker, like, themes such as racism and, like I said, the politics side of things and just social norms, which I think was very interesting. It doesn't really drive it down your throat, but it's really cool because based on the choices that you make, so the responses, like for a while I kept getting all these things where it was like, make a choice, are you this type of like, are you on this side of the politics or are you this side? And I was always like, I don't know, I don't want to decide, like I didn't care. And so random speech bubbles will show up and it'll be like, hey, you look like a guy who never makes a decision. And I was like, what? No. And And they're like, you're this type of cop. And I was like, what the hell? And so it'll like basically pinpoint who you are in the game based on these choices you make. And it even comes full circle at a point at the end of the game where your detective has to describe who you are, and he'll give basically a rundown of kind of the choices you made and who you were in his eyes because of what you've done.
That's really, really cool. I want to play Disco Elysium so bad, especially because we're going to do our like indie game of the year. But it seems to be such a large time investment. So I played a lot of games. Like I played them enough to get a general idea of what the game is about and kind of form my opinions on them over the weekend, because I had a 4-day weekend because of Thanksgiving and Black Friday and everything. But I'm kind of holding off on both Disco Elysium and the just Outer Wilds until I have like a good amount of time to just sit down and play it a bunch, because it seems like both of those games are going to be like heavy time investments. So the first game that I played over the weekend was, so I did all of this because Steam had a great Black Friday sale, which I will say Steam did this really cool thing where on its homepage it had its like autumn sale banner, but I don't know if it changed every day or if it changed like after a certain amount of hours or whatever, but every now and then it would actually change. So at one point in time, like I forget, I believe his name is The Wolf or just Wolf or something like that from Sekiro, the main character, your shinobi. He's like in it, and then 5 seconds, like the next time I saw it, he was like killing this monster, and I was like, this is so cool. That has nothing to do with me playing Ape Out. I just thought that was really interesting to have an evolving banner. But and then there's like Gabe Newell in the background for no reason. I was like, just kind of sneak Gabe in there. Okay, that's interesting. But I bought a lot of these games because they were on sale over the weekend, and I bought them on Steam because that was pretty much the best sale possible. Because I bought like a bunch of shit on Black Friday. I did all sorts of stuff, and I should also say, so last week I said I was going to post the episode early because I wanted it out there for people to listen while they're in like Black Friday lines. So on Thursday I got home at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, something like that from my parents' house. And I was like, I should start uploading the episode. And I was like, okay, I also want to check to see when Black Friday sales start. They started like basically at 3 o'clock. They started at like the beginning of the day on Thursday for the most part. It's like Black Friday is now, and I mean, some of them started like a week ago. Yeah. It was excessive. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to post it at midnight. Anybody who's out on Black Friday, technically it'll just be on Friday. It doesn't matter. Whatever. But I bought a bunch of games. The first one I played was actually Ape Out. I really enjoyed Ape Out. So I played a decent amount of games. I would say it's probably my second favorite of the indie games I played over the weekend, Reventure being the first. So Ape Out, I really enjoyed it. It's just plain fun. The gameplay and everything to it is just super fun. You're basically just an ape trying to escape this facility that's experimenting on you. Seemingly, there doesn't really seem to be a story as far as I've seen. It's mostly like a Hotline Miami type action, and that's about it. You're just trying to escape this facility. So I love that it's kind of like set to this really, really awesome scat music, and I like it a lot. And the faster you go through levels and the more action, the more the soundtrack actually begins to evolve around the, basically the choices you make. Like if you fight that guy, if you don't, if you run away, whatever. I really, really like it. It has this really cool minimalist art style and minimalist mechanics where the mechanics are you can basically you could pick stuff up and you could push it. That's about it. You can't really do much else. You can move around, pick stuff up, and push stuff. So you can actually use that in a bunch of different ways depending on what kind of challenges you come up to. So if there are two people, you can actually pick up one person, use him as a shield, and then throw him at the other person, and it'll kill both of them. Or you can just run into rooms, pushing people, and they'll hit walls and die. It's really cool. There are a few issues that I had mechanically. Sometimes it's really hard to grab people for no reason. Like, yeah, I'll run up and try to grab somebody, and it's like the guy just wasn't there. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what is happening right now? You're less than a foot in front of me. Just grab him. And I was super close to the end of a level and got, like, I don't know how, but I got caught on a corner and died. Just like right around the edge of a corner and just got caught and couldn't really move and died. And I was like, that fucking sucks because you have to start the level all over again. The coolest thing about it though is that the level is actually like randomized every time. So
that's cool.
And every time you die, it actually shows the path through every time, like, shows the path that you have taken through the level. So it just, like, shows this line of how many people I killed and all sorts of shit.
That's funny.
It's really cool. I would actually really recommend it to anybody. I think it's a good game. I would recommend buying it. I have just a few issues with it. The second, because it's kind of weird. It's separated into chapters and then it's separated into albums. So once you finish all the chapters in one album, you go to the next album and it's a completely different. It introduces kind of not necessarily new mechanics, but it's like a new environment that you're escaping from. So the first one is kind of like this large facility, seemingly in a jungle. The second one is like a high rise, and the high rise is really annoying because typically, like in the first level, there's just glass randomly, like panes of glass that you could push through, you could push people through, whatever. But there's always the ground on the other side. Not in the high rise, obviously, so you can accidentally just like hop out the edge of the building. Just and because of the camera and the minimalist art style, sometimes it's actually kind of hard to see what is ground and what is death. So I really like it. I especially liked in the like high rise, the skyscraper level. I think it's called high rise, but I liked it because you could actually throw people out windows and you'd like watch them fall to their deaths. It's really fucked up, but it's a lot of fun. I would recommend Ape Out to almost anybody. I'm gonna play more of it. I don't think it's. I mean, I'm going to play more of it before the episode, we actually record the episode, because we're going to be doing that at the end of December, but I definitely don't think it's going to be near my indie game of the year, but it is basically just pure, unadulterated fun. It's something that you can pick up, you can play, you enjoy your time, and then you're done with it. Like,
nice.
Like, I can come back to it whenever I want. It's not complicated at all. It's literally just fucking murking people and then, like, running away. Like, there's nothing complicated about it, and it's a lot of fun. The next one I played is actually Gris, or Gris, however you want to say it. I'm not going to really try anymore because I don't know how to say it. But the second one I played is actually Gris. I haven't played as much of this as I have of Ape Out, but it is... I don't want to say fun because it's well, it's got an amazing art style. I absolutely love its art style and I love its music, but there's not a lot of like intense gameplay. It's kind of something that it seems to like it's trying to convey a message without actually saying anything, and it's basically it's all about environment or storytelling, and it seems to be the gameplay is surrounded around just kind of, I don't know, it's like serene. You just kind of walk through, you make not really like complicated, you go through not really complicated platforming puzzles, and then once you get to the end of it, you can restore color to restore a certain color to the area, and then you move on. There doesn't seem to be, it's just not that complex, and that's not a knock against it. It's just not something that I would say is really fun. It's more of an experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm excited to get back to it, but if Ape Out is a game, it is so much fun. Gris is a piece of art. Like it's meant to invoke an emotion. I have not got to the point yet where it invokes that emotion, but it's very pretty. And I'm excited to play a little bit more, but I haven't gotten too deep into it, so that's pretty much all I can say about it.
Gotcha.
The next game I played was Katana Zero. I played I played through several different assassinations. They are a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy it. I actually liked a lot. My favorite part about it is actually probably the dialogue that you can have with other characters. So you're just like a dude dressed up as a samurai walking around with a katana, just kind of chilling. Like,
Yeah.
you're not.
Why not?
Yeah, you're not inconspicuous. Like, it's so weird. So my favorite part of, or my favorite kind of memory, I guess, my favorite moment of playing Katana Zero was actually in, I believe it's the second assassination. You go and you're supposed to assassinate this dude at the top of like a hotel, and you walk in, and the front desk lady is like talking to me, and she's like, "Oh, what are you dressed up as? Like, why are you dressed up like that?" And I was like, it's cosplay. Like, that was just one of the options. And she's like, "What are you cosplayed as?" And there was like basically like, fuck off, I don't want to talk to you, and then just like an answer. So I choose that one. And it was so weird because it started to reference like Yu-Gi-Oh and Beyblade, and it was so odd. I was like, this game really wears its references on its sleeve. It's not complex. It's really interesting. The gameplay in Katana Zero, I think, is a lot of fun. There doesn't seem to be a massive amount to it. It seems like it's all a puzzle. You're meant to run through these levels, and it's really fast paced. I realized recently that I'm actually very bad at vocalizing the way I feel about things, because my friend Chase pointed out that I say I hate things a lot. And I was like, that's actually a good point. And I don't feel like I actually hate things. I just don't know how
to say you don't like this specific part of it.
Yeah, I don't know how to emote. I don't know how to like get my point across without saying hate. I'm not that eloquent, I guess.
That's okay.
But Katana Zero is a lot of fun. I think there's not a lot to it. I'm really invested in the story, but the gameplay side of things. So you can just do your standard slashes, you can roll, and you can pick up objects from what I've seen. There's not much more to it than that. There are certain times where I will try to pick up an object, and there are multiple objects, and it picks up the wrong one, even though that one was further away. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I wanted, like, the cleaver. Why did I pick up the bottle? That doesn't make any sense.
You gotta use the bottle. It's the right one.
Yeah, I don't know, but I really, really enjoyed it. There are like very minimal issues I've had with it. I'm excited to see how the story goes because I've heard it actually has a really, really cool ending. And the way it starts to play out is so weird. Like, you start to have these nightmares, and they are slowly like coming more and more into focus, and you're finding out more and more of what happened to you. It has this really interesting world where there was like this war, your character was seemingly involved in it, but I'm not sure to what degree. And you have this like massive head injury because of it, so you don't know anything about yourself, but you also view time in a different way, so you can slow down time. It's really weird. I'm excited to play more. That's the most I can say about it is I'm actually just really excited to play more of Katana Zero. So my favorite game of the bunch was actually Reventure. That's I don't know if that's technically like chronologically I played it next in order after Katana Zero, but I picked it up. It is a 2019 game. It's not one I've seen anybody actually talk about,
Right.
But it has a shitload of reviews on Steam, which is so weird. But it's a game that is not about gameplay. It's about collecting endings, which sounds odd, but it has like 100 different endings, and you're, for the most part, just meant to go through the game and see if you can get all of the endings. So there was one ending where you wake up and these guys are like, hey, the princess has been kidnapped by the Dark Overlord, whatever, just standard RPG storyline. The king is like, hey, you go save my fucking daughter. Like, I don't know.
That sounds
you
about
can do
right. That's
something.
probably what
Yeah.
a king would say.
It's pretty typical. And he's like, I've got a shield and everything. So I was like, all right, cool. I go grab the shield, and I was like, fuck, they won't let down the drawbridge because I don't have a sword. So it's a 2D side scroller, so you can only go one of two ways. So it's like, all right, I'll go the other way to see what's over there. Turns out that's where you get your sword. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'm like fucking with the sword and everything. I'm like, okay.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, this was before I actually knew that this game was just about getting endings. So I'm like fucking with the sword, just kind of like messing around, seeing what I can do. I go down a little bit, I find a shovel, I dig my way out, I go back, and I get to the drawbridge. And I'm like, okay, cool. I got to the drawbridge, time to really begin this adventure. I was like, it's given me a lot of items before this, but, you know, I'm not really going to worry about it. So... I go forward a little bit and I find another item, which is like a hook shot that allows me to kind of winch myself up to high places. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I had seen kind of a ledge beforehand in the castle that I was like, maybe that's how I get up there. Oh, okay. So I go back into the castle, and this is where the controls are kind of annoying, but in a hilarious way. I'm trying to walk past the king, and the control to stab somebody is the exact same control to actually shoot your little like hook shot up. And I was like, not the best, but okay. So I walk up and I just fucking shank the king, and it's like first ending obtained. So you basically like, it's like Tim killed the king, and then turns out he kind of sparked a little bit. He then becomes the king, and everyone else leads by his example, and I get killed by one of the guards, and he becomes king. Right. And I was like, fucking asshole. So then you just basically start back over, and you try to go through again. I've had multiple endings in weird ways, so once I realized that it was about collecting endings, I was just like, who should I stab next? Like,
wow.
What other person can I kill to get another ending? So I go and get the sword, killed the elder that was guarding the sword. Yep, that one is also an ending. And it's just like, you, to test out your new sword, you stabbed an old man in the back. And it's like, dick move.
That's awesome.
I got that ending. I got an ending where I literally walked out of my house, tripped on a rock, and that's it. That was an ending. I tripped on a rock. People made fun of me. And then when I woke up to get the next ending, it actually referenced the fact that I tripped on a rock. And it's like a year has passed, and you still feel uncomfortable about tripping on the rock. And I was like, okay, I killed a guard and was sentenced to death. All right. I mean, they didn't sentence me to death for killing the king. I just became the king. So it's like, okay. I picked up multiple items and was actually crushed under the weight of said items.
That's awesome.
There's so many. I've never had a game before that's actually just about getting to the end of it, and these endings happen extremely quickly.
That's funny.
Well,
what? Hold up. Is it so when you do this and you get an ending and you restart, do you lose all your items? Is it like starting over fresh?
Yeah, you have to do it all again. But it's in like such a close corridor that you can actually get all your items back within like 5 seconds. But it seems like a lot of this game is actually, you're not supposed to pick up all the items.
Right. You're just exploring elements to basically see what kind of story you can get.
Just what kind of weird shit can happen, really. It seems like I dug too deep in the earth and was killed by a dragon.
Wow. All right.
I also dug too deep in the earth, and I came up onto like a pit that had a sign that was like, do not dig here. Naturally, I dug, and it turns out it was a bottomless pit that I just fell forever and starved to death.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I had so many, and after these endings, Tim slowly begins to get older and older, and I didn't actually notice that. So he got really old, and he was this old-ass fucking man with a cane. I was like, what the hell? So I became that. I think I died again, and then it's like, oh, Tim's brother, Jim, or whatever comes up, and it's like a slightly different character model, and then you play through the game as Jim. When I got burnt by the dragon, I woke up and had no skin. I had scars all over me, so my sprite was like all red.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's
so
interesting.
weird.
Yeah, I really like how they don't kind of. It's interesting how they play into that and refresh the game where you don't have your items, but for some reason you have those elements of your last death, basically. I like how they transfer that over. It's pretty cool.
It's so weird. I actually, like, once, so I killed the guard and was sentenced to death. And then the next playthrough, I couldn't actually go retrieve the sword from the stone. It was in the guard's back. And I just had to go grab it from the dead guard. And I was like, I don't know how this actually goes together considering they murdered me, but okay, that's cool. I don't give a shit.
Damn,
So,
I kind of want to play this game now.
it's really fun, and it's actually really cheap. It does not cost that much. I was kind of surprised. It's so weird. I would recommend everybody actually play it because of how weird it is. It's just kind of an experience. I've never played a game that is just about seeing what kind of weird shit you can do. There's no actual goal to this game other than technically, like, collecting all the endings, which there's 100 of them, and typically they're super funny. Like, the fact that I tripped on a fucking rock and was so ashamed and that was an ending, I was like, all right, I like this game. This is a good game. This is awesome. I'm going to go through these next few really quickly. Baba Is You. I really, really like the gameplay mechanic that it's
so
all about.
good.
Yeah, okay. This is where we kind of, I would say, divert. I enjoy it. I didn't play a whole lot of it. I enjoyed the mechanic of you actually solving puzzles by switching the way like sentences are worded. I thought that was really, really cool. So, like how it's like flag is win. I switched it with rock is win, and then I just went and touched the rock and I won. And I was like, huh, that is really, really cool. I don't like the art style very much. I don't like the music. So I don't really like the world, but the gameplay mechanic itself is really, really cool and unique. I don't know how much more I'm going to play of it just because I don't know. I'm not like really, really into puzzle games, but this one is so unique that I really actually want to get more into it.
So like this game, and one of the things about Baba Is You, I like to think that, you know, I'm pretty clever when it comes to these kind of games. Baba Is You is real tough. Like,
yeah, it's really hard.
There's no joke about it. And it's a weird game because it's very of a different mindset that you have to be in, because it's quite similar to like programming language kind of speak. And so a lot of the times the way Baba Is You worked for me when I was playing it is I would literally rack my brain for like an hour on a level. And I would be like, this makes no sense. And I would go and I would keep trying things and and it would just seem like it's the same thing over and over again. And I'd be like, I'm done. And I would walk away and then I'd pick it up again like a little bit later and I'd be like, oh, it's obviously this. And then it would be like in an instant and I'd be like, oh yeah, that was easy. Why didn't I see that before? Like it's such a different, but I don't know, the unique mechanic of actually having to reprogram the world around you is just something I've never really seen in a video game, and I loved so much.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. You kind of like you're meant to set the rules of the world in new ways, and so interesting, like a level where lava normally kills you. Instead, you literally just push a word to the side. Lava literally no longer kills you. It's so weird, and I really, really enjoy that. A game that allows you to kind of change everything is so interesting, like you said. Like, there's not another puzzle game that's like this. So, I'm excited to play more, and I'm actually really interested to see where it ends up on our lists for Game of the Year or Indie Game of the Year. I feel like our lists are going to be a bit different. I feel like it does deserve to be on the list no matter what, because of how interesting and unique it is, but
it's not for everyone.
Oh yeah, definitely not for everybody. It's cheap, but not for everybody. I also played. I'm re-hopping. I'm going to play through the series, the Dragon Age series again, but I'm not going to really get too much into it. I'm into Dragon Age Origins. I'm playing as an elf mage. I really enjoy it. A lot of that stuff does not age well. Flemeth, the old lady, Morgan's mom, she can get it. I don't care how weird she looks. I'd smash. Morgan, I'd smash as well. Basically, I mean, really bad character models in some. Like, they do not age well. Doesn't matter. I'd smash. I also played Final Fantasy XIV. I'm hopping back into it as well. Basically because so many people tell me how fucking amazing like all of the expansion storylines are, Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers, and I really want to get to them. So I've decided that I'm just going to kind of like slog through the Realm Reborn storyline because it's honestly just kind of dull. It's pretty boring. But I'm going to keep going because I want to get the samurai job, and I also really just want to see the good stories, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thanks. Too much work. I'm not into that whole put in like 20 hours before the game gets good kind of a thing.
Well, the gameplay loop of Final Fantasy XIV is fun. It is actually really fun. It's just the story itself is not really that interesting in the beginning. That's basically the only issue I have with it. Is kind of like the story itself is kind of boring, but the gameplay loop, as long as you like MMOs, is actually really interesting, and I enjoy it. But yeah, it's the standard MMO, and it's literally like all fetch quests.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So if you hate fetch quests, probably shouldn't play Final Fantasy XIV. At least if you're going to play it, just be prepared to do a shitload of fetch quests before you seemingly get to the big, awesome storyline quests. And it takes forever to get a chocobo. But now that it's almost an hour into this podcast, let's get into the news. Our first news story is over on IGN. It is written by Matt Kim, and it is Into the Valley of Gods, which I realized this week I have been saying it wrong for a while. I kept saying in the, like, I just said it wrong as well.
You did. Yeah, you did. I was like,
it's called it's called In the Valley of Gods. I have said Into the Valley of the Gods. Into the Valley of Gods. It doesn't really matter. I've said it wrong every time, pretty much.
Adding additional words is fine. No one needs to know what the real names of things are anymore. Just say names and, people will get it eventually.
Hopefully. That's what I hope.
In
the Valley of Gods on hold as Campo Santo devs work on other Valve projects. This is kind of an update to a story we had last week where we talked about how it's possible that In the Valley of Gods was in trouble. It seems like it's not necessarily in trouble. The developers are just not actually working on it. Campo Santo co-founder Jake Rodkin has confirmed that In the Valley of Gods is on hold as former Campo Santo developers are busy working on other projects at Valve, including Half-Life Alyx, among other things. Campo Santo, best known for the game Firewatch, announced their follow-up game In the Valley of Gods at the Game Awards 2017, not 14. 4 months later, Valve announced it acquired Campo Santo. To fans looking forward to In the Valley of Gods, it's probably clear that the optimistic 2019 at the end of our announcement trailer isn't going to be accurate, Campo Santo co-founder Jake Rodkin said in a statement to Polygon. In the end, Valve time makes fools of us all. But yes, developers from the former Campo Santo team have joined other projects at Valve, including Half-Life Alyx. Rodkin says, cited, and this is so weird that it says that, Rodkin says, cited Valve's known business practice of letting employees work on whatever they want. Some former Campo Santo devs lent their first-person adventure bona fides to to Half-Life Alyx and became full-time team members. Other former Campo devs are working on Dota Underworlds, Steam, and other unnamed projects. I think it's actually really cool that they gave them an option to just work on whatever they wanted. Like, they're not forced to continue the game that they had already said they were going to, which might actually annoy a lot of people, but the fact that they weren't shoehorned into working on anything. It seems like they were just like, can I work on Half-Life? And they're like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, I don't care.
Honestly, here's the thing about it. I think it's better. And yeah, it's not obviously a positive opinion for those who are really looking forward to In the Valley of Gods. But if this is the way it worked out, where Valve literally gave them, Valve acquires them and goes, oh, do you want to still work on that project, or do you want to work on all these other things that we have? And they leave to something else, then it clearly means that either those people, A, didn't have their heart in it, or B, they're, actually the pessimist talking, actually were coerced into going into the different projects. But I assume it's option A, which is they thought it would be more beneficial for them to work on other projects. And if that's the case, you would have had not as great of a product because their heart's not into actually creating it.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. And also, I guess I should go down further into this. So to answer your question, as of today, In the Valley of Gods development is on hold, but it certainly feels like a project people can and may return to. And when that happens, we'll find an exciting way to let the fans know. In recent statements, the developer has been referred to as former Campo Santo developers, which seems to indicate that the studio as a brand is no longer operating within Valve. IGN reached out to Valve for more details, but none have been given yet. Blah, blah, blah. So I think it's cool that, like you said, it seems like these people weren't 100% in the Valley of Gods, and even if they were seemingly given like the opportunity to work on projects that they really, really cared about, which is so cool. And it kind of like seems like they've left the door open that they're like, if in a couple years, whatever, after Half-Life Alyx ships, if these people want to come back, they can. Like, they can work on this if they want to, which is so weird because normally when you hear about acquisitions, it's we buy them and then they work on what we want them to, not we buy them and then they do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It depends because this is obviously an interesting, and I mean, certain acquisitions can fall under this, but like from this industry, like I understand the concept that you might want to purchase or acquire a company just because of the talented individuals inside that company. And if, Valve values highly those individuals that are working and creating on those projects, they might just want them for the person, like for the brains behind it. They don't really care about the product that they're working on, which sounds negative, but isn't. It's just saying, hey, we have faith in you as individuals and as a company, and we want to basically have you do more of stuff for us. And, if that stuff is what Valve has set up, or if that stuff is what they had originally had planned, then so be it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to find out what they're currently working on. I think it does. The only thing I think about that kind of does suck in this situation is the fact that Campo Santo doesn't seem to be like a brand anymore.
Right. That is a little strange.
Yeah, I don't really follow a lot of like market decisions and like acquisitions of companies, but I haven't seen that really happen before. And I'm not sure if Campo Santo, like if there are certain people that are still technically within that brand or not. It seems like I mean, they said in the article, they reached out to Valve to kind of get like more details on this, but I'm assuming like just because it said former Campo Santo, it seems like those are the people who left to go do other things. And there's still possibly people working underneath that umbrella. But yeah, that's really weird, especially because like that studio wasn't started that long ago. And it actually kind of like, I don't know, I would say made waves, however big or small, made waves with Firewatch, and then is now just kind of disappearing. It's getting swallowed up by Valve.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I'm taking more of a, positive approach, but we'll see kind of as the story unfolds. I'm sure more information will come out later. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's a positive thing and that, Valve is doing this with the intention that they want them to work on whatever they want, and they decided to work on other projects.
Yeah, it seems like this would be the ideal scenario. is for somebody
Right?
to buy you and then just like kind of let you run free. They're like, hey, we trust you as like we trust you in whatever your role is. Do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a weird company philosophy, but it's really, really interesting. Which also is so hilarious because all those people wanting Half-Life 3 for years, this really means nobody wants to work on it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, well, at the same time, like, okay, Half-Life 3 is one of those things where they waited so long that there's so much hype around it, and it's become such a big meme that, like, at this point, the expectations are so high that you have to really come out of the gates, like, running and create a banger of a game for it to even be, the bar is set so high right now because people are expecting something so great that and that's why I'm really interested to see how Half-Life Alyx turns out. But Half-Life 3, that concept it's gotten so much pressure that I feel like no one in their right mind would want to work on it because of the fact that it's almost set up for failure.
Yeah, I was gonna say I should actually elaborate. I've heard that people on like internal, like people who work at Valve don't want to work on Half-Life 3 because they feel like no matter what they do, it will never live up to people's expectations. Yeah. So it's not necessarily that people don't want to work on it, but people just know that they're like doomed if, like damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Right.
Like if they do it and the fans don't like it, then like they're gonna get poo-pooed. If they do it and like, or if they don't do it, I mean that's basically the only scenario that's good. Like I feel like no matter what, unless they come out of the gate and make something that's so revolutionary, which I feel isn't really a thing nowadays. But I don't know. It's possible. Everything's possible. Like you said, this is a positive thing. Valve is a positive company. We'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's hop over to our next news story. Staying on IGN, this written by Chris Priestman. It is No Man's Sky synthesis updates makes fan requested changes. Hello Games has revealed the synthesis update, because I can't speak, for No Man's Sky, which will add fan-requested features to the game in time for Thanksgiving. No Man's Sky will be upgraded once again on November 28th, 2019, with the arrival of the synthesis update. Hello Games says this update will clean up some of the features that No Man's Sky Beyond added to the game, as well as add others that the developers didn't have time to add. There are also brand new things which the community have suggested since Beyond, which we agree will only improve the experience. Hello Games writes on the PlayStation blog, which is actually kind of interesting that Hello Games of all, like the actual developer wrote a post on the PlayStation blog. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I find that so interesting, but it's weird. It gets, like, normally when you see developers reach out themselves, you'll see it on Twitter or on their own blog, right, not on literally PlayStation's blog. No Man's Sky. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they released a game exclusively on PlayStation, and then of course it came to other consoles later, but big deal.
Big deal.
No Man's Sky Beyond added VR support to the game, and so a couple of features in the synthesis update will improve that. Specifically, a VR photo mode is being added so you can share your best snaps, and you'll also be able to ride pets in VR now. Non-VR players will also be able to enjoy driving the Exocraft in first person as VR players do. Hello Games has also outlined a number of quality of life improvements that'll make the game better to play for everyone. These including multiple multi-tools, flatten or restore terrain at the press of a button with the terrain editor, refine materials wherever you are, save a range of custom outfits that you can quickly change into, trade in unwanted ships for technologies and upgrade them, long distance inventory management, mid-air jet. Actually, the long distance inventory management is awesome. Because It's so annoying when you're far away from your like ship and you can't fuck with its inventory. It just tells you you're too far away. I'm like, dude, fuck off. If I can summon my ship, why can't I fuck with the shit inside of it? Like, let's not do this. Mid-air jetpack recharging. That's actually pretty cool too. Emergency warping to flee from combat. New base parts including triangular shapes, which I didn't know. I'm assuming that's one of those fan things, but that's kind of interesting. And space map has been improved with clear visuals. There is a full list that is coming, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Have you hopped into No Man's Sky at all?
No, I'm not. So No Man's Sky is an awesome endeavor, and it's a project that's pretty insane. Just like from its story perspective of how it came to be and what it is now. But it's just not really my style game because there's not really like a set thing to do, so to speak.
Yeah, you just like aimlessly wander. Technically, the set thing to do is get to the center of the universe, but I'm not sure if they changed it, but initially it just sent you back.
Yeah, see, like, I don't know, like, these kind of games like this, or, like, 7 Days, or, you know, like, Minecraft, or these types where you basically go through and you're kind of just building stuff, and you're creating, like, a habitat in here, and exploring the world around you, like, they're really cool for probably, like, you know, a couple hours for me, but then I'm just like, nah, I saw some stuff, I'm done. I don't know, I can never really stay in these ecosystems.
Yeah, I feel like my like attention toward them might last a little bit longer than yours, but I pretty much feel the exact same way. Like I continue to hop back in to these like survival games like Ark or No Man's Sky, but I never actually like stay. Right. I never continue to play till end game. I never do any of that. I eventually just hop off again because like you said, there's no real driving force to the game. You just do stuff, which a lot of people really, really enjoy. It seems like neither of us actually can get into that.
Yeah, but I still think it's really cool. Like, I enjoy seeing these type of stories from Hello Games because it's interesting just from where they started to how well they're doing and how well they understand their community and how to basically work with them and the feedback that they're getting. Because, like, this is a true story of what developers should be doing when they roll out a game and it flops. Like,
yeah, so I actually wanted to ask you about that. When a developer rolls out a game and it flops, like Anthem or Fallout 76, do you think that they should basically like do something similar to what No Man's Sky did, which they like slowly they trickled out new updates until they got to a big update. So they like did, I believe, 2 or 3 updates before they did No Man's Sky Next, which Next I believe was the big update that then kind of put it back on the map, and they were like, this is this is a new game. This is when you should get back in. And then later on they came in with like other ones. I believe it was No Man's Sky Next. I'm fairly certain that that's the update I'm thinking.
That's okay. We can never know.
Yeah, there's no way to know. But
no way to know.
Which one do you think that they should do? Do you think that, because there's actually rumors that BioWare, or I'm not sure if it's specifically BioWare, but that they're kind of taking Anthem and they're planning like a full revival. They're going to take it back to the drawing board and just work on it and fix it. Do you think that they should like work on it, shut up and fix it and not do any updates until then? Or do you think that they should just slowly trickle things out to kind of keep the small community that they have like satiated, and then they blow everybody's socks off with this new thing? Or do you think that they should just like wait, kind of like basically starve everybody until the new thing comes out?
So there's a lot of reasons for, you know, each alternative. I think having a mix of the two is probably better. Meaning, I think doing in small chunks is still very beneficial to keep that community alive for the few, you know, the small few that have been actually loyal to this brand that you're creating, because obviously they're going to be the people who are helping you turn this product into something better. It's also beneficial because you want to roll out small stuff that will be the groundwork that, a lot of those new mechanics or changes to the game rely on. Because if you're doing something where you're totally in the dark and you try to then just revamp it as like, here's the new Anthem or the new Fallout 76, you run the risk of having essentially the same thing that happened the first time. Is you might produce another just flop that, although you had the best intentions and you put a bunch of new things in and you changed it, it might not be what the community is looking for, because you're not engaging with what are the things that, although they engaged with, okay, what did you hate from the initial one? If you're building something totally brand new and it's too far off from what it was before, you might get something totally different that people still hate.
Yeah, so what so basically, like, releasing smaller updates allows you to keep your finger on the pulse. So then when you begin to work on your larger update, that's, exactly how to mold it.
Right. And it's good because, especially if you're doing it in enough succession where you're putting out a good enough amount of content, even though it's small chunks, but you're doing it in a iterative way that's frequent enough, you can build this kind of trust that, hey, this team is doing something. Like, it's not that they're gloating about like, oh, we've got this new thing. It's that, here's a new small chunk. What do you guys think? We want to know so we can build it. Okay, here's the next chunk. We did this based on the feedback and some new things that we thought about. Here's the next chunk of, whatever the game is changing. You're building not only that community fan base that stuck with you, they're going to be the ones who are, still loyal, still want to be a part of that community, want to help the game, but you're also going to be constantly in the, talk of the town kind of a thing, because you'll always have something to be relevant from a news story report. Like there will be this, we have it on this show already. Every couple of months we have generally a Hello Games thing where it's like, oh, look, No Man's Sky did another thing. Like, that constant traction will bring people in who might not have played this before, or maybe had just been like, oh, I never really played this, but I just keep hearing it. I keep hearing good things about it. I keep hearing about them updating stuff. I guess I'll jump in it. I guess I'll try it.
All right. Yeah. So basically, Hello Games seems to have done it perfectly.
Well, I don't know about perfect. I mean, perfect would have been they got it right the first time, but yeah, they
oh yeah, I just mean they brought it back perfectly, basically. Like, they did what one should do in a scenario where you fail so epically.
Yeah. And it's hard because they could have done, you could still do it in the same way that Hello Games did it, but you could still fail. Even if you're doing incremental chunks, if you're producing content that is buggy or isn't really listening to what the community is asking for, then yeah, small incremental chunks might not be the best way, because you might tick off people because it's not the things that their, highest priority is. You have to be smart about how you do it.
All right. So speaking about being smart and selling in chunks, I guess. I don't know where I was going with that one.
Good try.
Our next and last news story is over on Nintendo Life. It is written by Liam Doolin, and it is Yacht Club reveals 25% of total Shovel Knight sales are on the Nintendo Switch. Since starting out life on Kickstarter, Shovel Knight has always had close ties with Nintendo systems. Nintendo even acknowledged this by adding Yacht Club's popular indie hero to its all-star fight. Okay, that doesn't really matter. It's an assist trophy in Smash Bros. Ultimate. There are multiple different amiibos. It's on fucking 3DS, dude. Like, yeah, Shovel Knight's obviously a mainstay with Nintendo systems currently. This close bond with Nintendo appears to have paid off, with Yacht Club Games' Sean Velasco and David D'Angelo recently revealing Switch game sales account for 25% of total sales on all platforms, as As wild as the sales currently are on Switch, the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove Collection is still selling decently on other platforms. In July, Yacht Club Games celebrated Shovel Knight's 5th anniversary. In this short time frame, he's made over 25 cameos and has sold more than 2.5 million copies of his game across 12 different platforms. His next outing, okay, yeah, that doesn't matter. So, games are selling big on Switch.
Dude, it's kind of crazy. Like, the fact that... So, this game came out in, like, 2014. And...
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah. And it wasn't actually put on the Switch until, I believe, 2017. Which means we've had 2 years of this time on this console. And we've had 3 years on... like so many other places for you to get Shovel Knight. It seems pretty wild that a game so far out, 3 years after it comes out, is still a 25% ratio on this specific console, which, I mean, it goes to really speak that tale of the Switch is just like an indies fucking like... It's the place to be. Like,
yeah, they sell like hotcakes on.
Yeah,
on the
it's
Nintendo Switch.
kind of crazy, but like it's still so interesting that people are still pushing so much money into this this franchise for a system where I don't know. I mean, it does make sense, but it's pretty interesting that they have such a high revenue from the Switch itself.
Yeah, I mean, the craziest thing, well, I mean, it's not necessarily crazy, but after 5 years, these developers are saying that, like, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove still sells decently. Like, it seems like it's not dwindling in any way, and I imagine those sales are actually going to pick up once they release King of Cards and Shovel Knight Showdown in December. So... it's pretty crazy, and I actually didn't even think about that till you brought it up, that this game had a full 3 years before March 2017 for it to accrue sales on all of these other platforms, and then Nintendo Switch then sells takes a fourth of what this sales total. That's fucking crazy. I didn't even think about that till you pointed it out. That's crazy.
It's interesting because Shovel Knight, you can get it on just like about anything. Like, I'm pretty sure it's, for the most part, on every console. It's on Steam. I think it's even in like the mobile realm of things, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I saw that it's actually side scroller, PlayStation Vita. You can get it on Amazon Fire TV.
Like, see, like, that's, I mean, granted, obviously a lot of people aren't buying it there, but like, there's so many avenues to get it. It's interesting that so much of it is tied to the Switch specifically.
I think the real story here is what percentage are sold on Amazon Fire TV.
Yeah, I wish I knew that.
That'd be like fucking crazy. So cool. They're like 5% is sold on Fire TV. I'd be like, that's fucking crazy though. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean that would be a bigger deal.
I'd shit my pants. I'd be like, that's fucking crazy. I wonder how much I wish they kind of released this sales data of all consoles, like what it's sold across the board, because it's like 2.5 million copies. That's amazing, but I want to know like what they're sold on. So you've got 25% on Nintendo Switch, but how much were sold on PS4, Xbox One, PC, Linux, whatever.
Linux.
Yeah, it separated those like in the like Wikipedia page. It had like Windows PC and it was like Linux, and I was like, okay. Cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you're gonna get much in that department, but it would be cool. It'd be cool to see the breakdown between Wii U and the Switch as well.
Yeah, I'd like to know how much it actually sold on 3DS, which sounds so weird, but I believe the 3DS one, as well as on the Wii U, you could actually play like multiplayer as long as you had the Shovel Knight amiibo.
Interesting.
I'm not 100% sure if you could on 3DS, but I know on Wii U and Nintendo Switch you can.
Spitting out lies.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do on this podcast is just kind of make like unfounded statements about different games.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's kind of my character.
right.
So let's hop in to news cram.
Cram time. You like that part?
I did. I really enjoyed that.
I do miss having Chris here. There's no one else to cram with me.
Yeah, we need to get I want to get eventually kind of a mainstay third host. I think that would be nice. Just round us out. I mean, it'd be weird when we have guests on then because it'd be 4 people.
Yeah, 4's too big of a number. I can't even count that high.
Yeah, I mean, Active Quest is 3 people already, and then they, on occasion, bring another person on. I'm like, man, there's a lot of people.
Too many voices.
Yeah, and we've already said that I'm dumb, so I can't differentiate between you.
Well, it's a good thing you're not the main listener here.
That's true. News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we, the hosts of Indie Incursion and Indie Games Podcast, cram you full of all sorts of indie games news. So, this week in News Cram, we've got a whole bunch of news stuff for you. I was going to put a lot of stuff in deals, but realized most of the deals actually were just like Black Friday and shit, and they're already done. So
yeah, it probably doesn't help people.
Yeah. So let's hop into news stuff. Our first 4 items in news stuff come by way of Nintendo Life, where it's reported that relaxing RPG Littlewood has a Switch release date planned for sometime in 2020. For those impatient listeners out there, it should be noted that you can actually play Littlewood in early access on Steam right now for $14.99. I believe... Ooh. Did we talk about Littlewood in God Bless the Crowd, or were you playing it one day? We have talked about it on the podcast before.
No, we talked about it in God Bless the Crowd. And it's funny because a buddy of mine actually picked up, and he really enjoys it. I've heard good things, at least from him, about it.
Yeah, it seems really interesting. Like this kind of relaxing RPG about rebuilding the world after this apocalyptic event.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sounds really cool.
We'll see. And once it goes to the Switch, I'm sure it'll sell a bunch. 25% maybe.
I fucking bet, dude. Indie games sell so well on the Nintendo Switch. It's honestly mind-boggling. I don't know why. I know the Switch is an amazing console and portability is a big deal, but why though?
I don't know, man. Nintendo got real lucky.
Yeah. You know how most people say there's no way to know? I'm just too dumb to know. So, whatever. Developer K-Swear, which I don't actually know how to say that. It's Caiyysware.
Sounds like too many letters that don't belong together.
Yeah, I believe it's the developer that made Skelly Celeste, but I'm not 100% sure. Has officially announced that roguelike, and I'm going to say right now, I hate this fucking developer because of their stupid-ass name, and listen to the name of this fucking game. Stramium Immortally. It's STRAIMIUMIMMORTALY. And I really hate it because Google Docs is like, you spelled immortality wrong. And I'm like, I fucking didn't. It's immortally.
It's immortally.
And I don't know why.
Everybody knows it. Don't be dumb.
It's so annoying. So Stramium Immortally is coming to Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch eShop on December 25th. Limited Run Games announced that both futuristic bartending sim Valhalla and narrative game 2064 read-only memories are available for pre-order until December 13th. Each costs $29.99 with a collector's edition of 2064 read-only memories priced at $59.99. And lastly, that family-friendly racing game Must Dash Amigos will be available on Nintendo Switch eShop on December 5th. Now we're moving over to Polygon, where it's reported that Stardew Valley on Windows, PC, Mac, and Linux.
Good old Max. Thanks for playing those games for me, Max.
I did it. Mac and Linux has just received yet another update, which will, among other things, allow you to disinvite your ex from your current wedding. Update 1.4 is planned to hit consoles soon, yet has no release date. And lastly, GameSpot reports that those waiting for the Untitled Goose Game merchandise can now breathe easy. Developer House has officially opened the Untitled Goose shop, which is now selling not only digital copies of the Goose Game, but multiple different t-shirts as well as a sweet pair of socks.
Hell yeah, those socks look great.
They do. They look fantastic. And it's just a goose, which, I mean, that's not that hard to make, but it looks good. Those t-shirts
really
look good too. I really like the long sleeve tee.
The long sleeve one?
I mean, technically, I feel like that's not actually a long sleeve t-shirt. It's just a long sleeve shirt, but I'm dumb.
What's the difference?
I imagine one has short sleeves and one's long, but not. I mean, there's no way to know, especially with my limited amount of intelligence. Are you gonna buy some sweet ass Untitled Goose Game merchandise?
I really like the plain white tee with the goose on it. I don't know why. It's almost like he's not even there. Like he kind of blends in with the shirt, which is a little weird, but I just really like the design of it. It's so simplistic.
Yeah, they have a lot of really cool tees on there. I think it's also really cool that they I don't know why I find this so interesting, because a lot of developers do this where they actually just sell like codes from their websites, but I think it is cool that you could just buy a digital copy from their website. Like you don't have to worry about going to different stores or anything. You could just buy one there. But I'm assuming it'll actually probably just link you. Like it'll give you like a Steam code or something. So
probably
kind of defeats the purpose.
You just have to go through it anyway. Because if they're giving you an eShop code, it's literally just you have to go into the Nintendo eShop and put in that code, and then it's like, okay, here you go.
Yeah, but it is a good way to actually kind of market your game, because the only merchandise that's actually like official merchandise is in this shop, and this shop also includes their game, versus other, like, I love indie games merchandise, and it's actually kind of like on occasion, like Fangamer is not that good at, so they're like collections and everything, but if you just click on a random piece of apparel or something like that and you don't know what game it's for, it's actually kind of annoying to find out which one. Sometimes it'll say it in the description and some other times it won't. So having like this kind of like all-in-one shop where you can not only buy the like merchandise because maybe you just think it looks cool, but also check out the game, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, Big Josh Boy, we've been blessed with so many amazing indie games news stories today that I think it's about time we give back to the creators. In our next segment, God Bless the Crowd, this is where the biggest of average Josh Boys goes into all sorts of different crowdfunding sites, finds some awesome games for us to talk about, and we do that. Today, we have one game on there, The Longest Road on Earth. It is an interactive experience about life. These developers are currently looking for $11,075. They have $2,573 with 84 backers and 33 days left to go. To actually get the game, you only have to put in $9 USD. So, what do you feel about The Longest Road on Earth?
So this kind of goes hand in hand with your explanation of Gris or Grizzle, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, Grizzle. Grizzle me timbers. Anyway, so The Longest Road on Earth is very, very much, at least from what it seems, an experience. It's a piece of art. It's you going through as these, I believe it's multiple characters because there's like chapters in it.
I think there's 4.
Yeah. So it's going in as these characters, and it's a black and white game where you pretty much just get to experience like what's happening. You obviously have control of the characters, but there's no, and they even say it in here, there's no real like challenge because they don't want to tarnish the experience. They want it to be more of like a story, more of just kind of a visual. You're playing out into this and you're experiencing whatever their story is, which I think is cool. But it's definitely one of those things where I don't think this is going to be for everyone. I don't also think this is going to be for the majority of people in general. This seems like a niche, type of people who are really into more of an artistic experience, people who want more of just a kind of interpret things on your own story because there's going to be no dialogue in it. It's black and white. The music behind it is, from what I've heard, actually pretty good. I definitely enjoy it. I think they've done a really phenomenal job on the parts that they have. So what I mean by that is, if you're taking away elements from a game where you're obviously playing into there's no dialogue, the other aspects of the game have to be much higher tier to have an experience that is going to be at the same quality of something that has those same elements, but they might be all kind of average. It kind of goes into the whole Pokemon thing we talked about. The fact that there's no dialogue in it was pretty annoying, especially since there's text and there's nothing there. That experience is lacking. Whereas this is different because the music and the theme and the actual picture that this game will paint for you is much different. It's about how you interpret it. It's about you building out the story based on the visual experience you're getting. So I think that what they've shown looks really interesting, and although I've hyped it up and talked very well about this, it's definitely not for me.
Yeah, it seems, like you said, really niche. I should say, I was actually thinking of how many people developed this. There are 4 people who developed it. They're based in Spain. It's a small team.
Right.
I don't know, how many characters you can play as, or if you really can. The way it describes it is pretty weird, but it seems like overall this game is just about everyday life. Gameplay takes place through an interactive representation of local everyday life, customs, and mannerisms in different settings and points of view, thus turning on lights, serving at a bar, or looking at a bouquet of flowers are a crucial part of the journey. In fact, that's it. There's no challenge to tarnish the experience. I think that's really, really cool. I like that it's monochromatic. It's just black and white. It's it lends to that artistic feel, and I think that's really cool. This honestly reminds me of kind of a weird foreign indie movie, which I shouldn't say weird. It's just
not weird, but it does seem like the indie film that you would expect, that type of genre. It has that feel to it.
Yeah, something that wins awards, but nobody can actually say they enjoyed watching it.
Man, I wasn't gonna go there, but yeah.
And I don't mean that in a mean way. This game, like you said earlier, akin to what I said about Gris, is this looks like art. It doesn't look like it's meant to be a typical game,
it's
that
such
quote unquote game.
It's such a weird discussion when it comes into what does a game have to be a game? Does it have to have platforming elements, some kind of boss, some kind of that actual challenge, or is this still because is this actually just an interactive movie as opposed to a game? What makes a game a game? It's a weird concept that you run into when you have games like this or Gris.
Yeah, I'm basically on the same page as you. This game looks really interesting, and it seems like I said, it's gonna win awards, but
if it gets backed.
Yeah, hopefully it does. I actually think games like this are really necessary. Just like Gris is, it's these are necessary to showcase, so big AAA games showcase the power of games. Things can look so beautiful. These games are meant to show that games are truly art. These aren't things that are just meant for kids to play or fucking adult babies are gonna play. These are literally an art form. These can be so much more than just pixels moving across a screen. They're trying to teach you something about everyday life without being kind of what people might seem childish or what they might think is childish. So I think games like this are really necessary. I think $9 is a small price to pay for this entry level stuff. I will say, just being nitpicky, it really bothers me that there's the make a pledge without a reward, and it says back because you believe in it this holiday season, support a project for no reward just because it speaks to you. And then there's a $3 one that just says thanks, thanks for helping us. I don't know why that is so weird to me.
Well, that back it because you believe in it thing, that I don't think that's from the actual I think that's actually from itself.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I just think it's so weird to have both of them. to have something that's just like, thanks. Like, this is the one time, I mean, I shouldn't always shit on the whole your name in the credits thing. Like, that is really cool. Because you did lend to the actual overall development of the game. I think it's not an amazing perk, but I do think it is, like, it's cool to actually have an effect on whether a game is made or not. But I think, like, the whole, like, having it and also having, like, basically having something that you get nothing for. Like, you basically just get thanks, which I don't think they literally thank you. I think it's just like, okay, cool, you gave us $3, and then also have pledge without a reward. Like, just having both of them, it's like, oh, cool, they're the same thing.
Yeah, well, like, so here's the thing. I believe this is really just Kickstarter changing up a lot of the ways that they do things, because earlier, for some reason, and I might be wrong, but I remember that tier always being like $1 or one, whatever the exchange rate is, whatever that currency is. It would be one just value monetary currency. And the reason why is because it was that just like, oh, just give $1. Like, just make a pledge, nothing happens, you give $1 away, because you don't really want to invest fully into it, but you want to just, hey, here, have $1. If a bunch of people do it, you'll possibly get to your goal, even without, all the full tier backed representatives. But for some reason, now I've noticed it's always in, I believe, 10. And it's really funny on this one because the currency rate for that 10 euros turns into $12, which is actually the amount for the game. It's more, and you would get nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe my whole issue is actually with the whole, like, pledge without a reward thing. Like,
yeah, which is like,
why not just get the game?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and the idea is it's...
Or I should say, why not just get the game or get whatever pledge gives you your name in the credits?
Right. Well, it's because, I mean, Kickstarter... It's hard because every Kickstarter is a little different. Yeah, like, it can be any amount. Like, you can change it to whatever amount you want.
All right, that is pretty cool because you're not constrained to the, like, specific amount. So it's like $9 for the copy, but if you want to give like 15 or whatever and there's no tier for 15, you could do that. But do they also allow you to do that? I like haven't gone through I've never actually backed anything on Kickstarter, which is kind of annoying for somebody who has a whole segment about it. But so that's just kind of like the pot calling the kettle black, or yeah, I've already spoken about how I'm a hypocrite, but how do, like, when you go to back something on Kickstarter, and I guess it'll be like an informational segment, do you get to choose how much you, like, spend on it? So let's say I did the 14, how it says like 12 or more. Can I do 15, 16, anything up to 20?
Yeah, so it's actually real simple. When you go to the box that says select this reward, when you click on it, it will give you the pledge amount, and you can alter it. So you can change it from that 12 to, say, 15, and then click continue, and it will be for that amount, but you'll still be pledging under that specific tier.
Oh, so it doesn't, like, automatically upgrade you? So if I went from, like, I was like, oh, I want $9, and then I put 14 there, it doesn't give me the tier with the, like, digital soundtrack and stuff? I guess that actually makes sense because some of the higher tiers, like, some of the other tiers are actually limited.
Right, yeah. I don't think that Kickstarter will immediately know, especially since you as the user clicked a specific tier and then decided to give more money. I don't think there's an automatic like change, but I think generally when you go through, if you as the user see that you put in more and you didn't get a certain item because you did that, generally you could just reach out to those, the Kickstarter creators, and they'll most likely reward you with the same one, because a lot of the times what they do after Kickstarters is they'll have it where when you pledge a certain amount, they'll also say like, oh, do you want to now pledge more? And we'll bump you up to a different tier so you can get those rewards. So I assume there might be some manual process that has to go if you're giving a different amount, because that's obviously not the norm. But I'm sure there's a way that you can work with the Kickstarter, not the Kickstarter, but the actual people for that campaign, and they would find a way to, give you the right rewards based on the amount of money that you provided.
Yeah. getting back to the game, I think the longest road on Earth is really cool. I hope that it gets backed, especially because $11,000 is not that, like, overall isn't that much kind of a thing. Like, that sounds weird because $11,000 is a large amount, but for, like, the amount of, like, Kickstarter campaigns we've seen, that's not that much.
Right.
So, yeah, I hope this gets backed.
And they still have time. They have 33 days to go, and they've made a good, chunk of the amount that they need. We'll see how well they can keep that pace up, but they have time to get that money.
Yeah. I should say that, like, this kind of stuff is exactly the reason that I created this segment, that I wanted this to exist, is to let people know that they can go back these, because, like, I still find Kickstarter super annoying to navigate. And, like, I wanted to create this segment because now you know that there are games out there that kind of, like, deserve to be backed, or you can see whether or not you want to. I'm always really glad to see that, like, I don't think this segment actually, like, helps that much. Maybe it helps a tiny bit, but let's say we get, like, bigger and everything. I hope it helps a lot more. So that's kind of a weird thing to say, but I felt like I should clarify the reason why I created the segment, but I actually don't back on Kickstarter.
You gotta just well, I mean, here's the thing. You might not be spending money, but if we, with the fan base that we have, if one or two of them back that's still, a positive tick towards their actual campaign in the long run. It's all about, how do people promote their product so that they can get potential investors. Yeah.
So, like, we're still helping.
I mean,
even though I don't give the, like, $10 or $9 or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you'll find a Kickstarter game that you're like, damn, I got to back this. We'll see. One day, maybe.
Yeah, I hate hearing about, like, I mean, I don't see, once again, I say I hate things and I don't. I really don't hate them. But I hate hearing about, like, games that had Kickstarters and I just didn't know about it. So that's also a reason I created this segment, is because literally,
keep
like,
up on it.
Yeah, like fucking Shovel Knight had one. Hollow Knight had one. There's so many awesome games that I wish I would have donated to, but just did not know that it exists. I should say, actually, and this is kind of like, I don't know if this is a big deal in general, but I think it's really cool. You brought up however small our fan base is. We actually, this is episode 59 we're recording right now, and I don't know if this is like total across, because we actually used to upload our episodes a little bit like behind baseball or whatever people say, because I don't actually know what people say there. Okay. A little bit behind the curtain here. We used to host our podcast on Podbean, and then when we got picked up by the HP Video Game Podcast Network, we switched over to Megaphone. So I'm not sure if our analytics all mixed, but on our 59th episode, we currently actually have more than 1,000 downloads. So we have gotten like higher than 1,000.
Nice. Well,
yeah, and
thank you for all
within
the listeners.
The 4 days of this month, we've already like gotten almost 50 downloads.
Wow. I mean, to obviously big representatives in the game of video game, podcasts and whatnot. Obviously, that's not a lot, but I think it's still pretty impressive for, where we came. We literally just rant about indie games, and we're just two nobodies, so it's awesome. A big thanks to anyone who is listening.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Also, thank you so much to like freaking Josh from Active Quest and Chris from Active Quest that are constantly like kind of like hitting us up on Twitter and getting the word out there. Thanks to like Chase for always writing in. Thanks to freaking John for writing in as well. Like anybody who writes in or like retweets, likes, does anything with the podcast. Thank you guys so much for actually doing that. It helps us reach more people. Thank you so much to all the people who fucking like review us on iTunes. It's awesome. But we are super far into this podcast and we still have some random questions. So I'm going to stop like jerking you dudes off and let's actually get into some random questions. Chase writes in.
What a
and
picture
says,
to paint.
I mean, I couldn't get smashing ass cheeks into this one. So,
well, I mean, you squeezed it in there.
Chase writes in and says, you can choose any animal that's the same or smaller size than a bear. It is now your pet and acts like a dog. It has all the loyalties as a dog, and it's guaranteed that it will never attack you. What animal do you choose?
I want to hear yours first.
So mine are just kind of generic, honestly. There's a couple I was initially, when he said that it was like a dog, I was kind of freaked out because I thought that it could attack you, because I actually don't trust dogs. I don't trust animals in general.
You're not a dog lover?
No, I love dogs. I just don't trust them.
Oh, well, I guess that's okay.
Yeah, I love my friends, but I don't trust the bitches. Those guys are fuck you over, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's
They might
not
poop on
actually
your carpet.
anybody in specific. Yeah, that's a good point. Weird thing.
God. Where are we
Another
gonna go with
weird
this one?
tangent. So I used to have a roommate before, he moved out. He's had
You're
a baby.
talking about Chase?
No, not when I lived with Chase. When I lived with my old roommate Forrest, when we actually first started this podcast, he was living with me. You can actually hear him randomly in just episodes of early indie Incursion, which is odd. But
What a star.
yeah, it's when I had my desk in the kitchen area, and he would I was super inconveniencing them, because when we do the podcast, he'd be like, I want to eat. So sometimes you could hear him fucking with the microwave in the background. And making
great.
editizers and shit. But when he lived here, he had a drunk friend stay over, and the dude peed on the ground.
Wow. I mean,
Technically, he pissed himself. I should say that.
Oh,
He
okay. I
didn't
was gonna
just
say, that's
whip it out
different.
and pee on my ground, but he peed his pants, and then he came back and steam cleaned my carpet.
well, at least he came back and was nice about
Oh
it.
no!
But
Yeah, this guy's a champ, dude. He came back and cleaned my carpet. But I will say, I'm super pissed. Nobody told me about
He's
it.
super
I
pissed.
came out walking barefoot, and I walked in that dude's pee. And there's nothing that you can't wash your feet enough to have not stepped on a freaking adult male's urine. Okay?
yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like, but I can only imagine it's not pleasant.
The one day that we meet each other, I'm gonna pee on your feet, just so you know.
Damn, what a
Just
fucking...
so you know what it's like.
I'm so excited to finally meet you.
Literally, you don't even know I'm actually there. You'll just be walking down the street and somebody starts peeing on your feet.
Wow. Yeah.
You'll be riding the subway.
All right, why don't we answer the question?
So, choosing some animals. I want a tortoise or
What?
a koala bear.
A tortoise? That's a normal friggin' animal to have.
Yeah, but Chase said it acts like a dog. So this thing would follow me places. I could play with it. See, I'm getting into semantics here. He said it acts like a dog. And also, I asked him if it would bite other people, if it would attack other people. He said you could train it. So I could train this fucking tortoise to attack other people, dude. That's fucking awesome. And I'm going to say that the tortoise is slightly faster because dogs are slightly faster. That's kind of a loophole.
This is a lot of,
but
there's a lot of
I'm taking a lot of a lot of liberties with this acts like a dog thing.
Yeah,
but
that's not how I read into that at all. Mine was, so I read into it being oh, it's just completely loyal. I picked a kangaroo.
Really?
Yeah, because I think that would be crazy to have. I mean, I don't know how I would get one here in Florida, but if you just had a kangaroo that was just chilling with you all the time and just hopping around, wouldn't that be badass to just be walking down the street and he's just walking with you side and side? Plus, if you wanted to go the route of training him to fight people, that thing boxes people. That thing's crazy.
Did you ever see that video of the dude who punches a kangaroo?
The kangaroo just looks at him. He's like, "What just happened?"
Yeah, it's he's the most bulky kangaroo ever, and he's just respect, dude. Game, respect, game.
Damn. Yeah. See, that would be me and the kangaroo. Only I wouldn't punch it, but he would know, who he's loyal to.
See, on the other hand, though, if you had a koala bear, you basically have a gonorrhea grenade. You could just throw it at people and give them gonorrhea.
I knew you were going to talk about this. I thought about this animal thing, and I was like, he's going to pick some kind of monkey or something that's throwing poop. You talk about poop every damn episode.
That's not poop. I said a gonorrhea grenade.
I mean,
it is a sexually transmitted disease that koalas can apparently give you.
Oh, all right. Well, I wasn't
To
listening.
be fair,
And for some
I don't
reason,
know if
I heard
koalas
poop.
have to have sex with you. By the way, I don't know how you get gonorrhea from them, but I don't believe it's penetratory or whatever, however you say that.
I don't know. But whenever you get that koala, I guess you'll find out.
Also, I can have it bite people, so
You're a
lots
monster.
of cool shit you could have to do with the koala.
What's wrong with you?
You're telling me if you had fucking koala, you wouldn't have it just like fucking cuddle up and bite people?
We are very different people.
That is very true. Just to show it, our next question from Chris Penwell, he asked, who's the best Street Fighter guy and gal? So once again, Chris asked a question that I don't know how to answer because I've never played Street Fighter. So
I think that's so crazy. Like Street Fighter is such a, household name. Like I feel like everyone's at least played it once. Like you've never like tried it at like an arcade or anything. Like no one's ever had it and you're like, "Oh, I guess I'll play this Street Fighter game."
have literally never played a Street Fighter game.
Damn.
I've
that's
played
kinda nuts.
Mortal Kombat, Smash, Tekken, fucking Blaze Blue. Like I've played a bunch of different fighting games, but I've never actually played a Street Fighter game.
Damn.
Which sucks because there's a bunch of thick dudes in it.
There's
A bunch of thick people.
That's definitely where we were going with this. That's what I look for in a fighting game.
So, who is your favorite Street Fighter guy and gal?
So, for me specifically, like, I also don't have a lot of experience with Street Fighter, but I used to play it a whole lot when I was a kid because I had it for the SNES. I had the Super Street Fighter Turbo 2, I think it was called. And I used to love playing that. I've never been good at fighting games, but for some reason I just always seem to have them. I think back in like the 90s, they were just like a real big thing, a lot more than now. But I always loved Blanca just because he makes no sense in the world of Street Fighter to me. I don't know a lot about the lore or like, I was looking this up before. Apparently he's like this jungle boy who...
He's a jungle.
Pretty much he like was in a plane accident or something and had to basically live in the jungle. So he's this crazy like ape man. It's weird that he's green and has orange hair though. I don't understand that part, but like he also has attacks where he just like produces electricity from himself. Like it makes no sense why he does the things he does, but you got to go with Blanca. He's the best.
So who is your Street Fighter gal?
So it's definitely a cop-out. It's Chun-Li. It's the only one that most people will generally know. But like, from what I recall, in Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I only remember Chun-Li and maybe one other female character. So like, there isn't a lot for me to really choose from.
Yeah. I honestly don't know. I don't know anything about Street Fighter. I enjoy like listening to people talk about Street Fighter and how like they believe it was superior to Mortal Kombat at the time. I like the discussion, but like I said, not a Street Fighter dude. Never played it. Never like watched anybody played it. Never cared about it until I realized that Cammy is fucking hot, dude. She's thick. She's a
thick.
hot lady.
Have you seen Chun-Li's legs? Her thighs?
They're
huge.
Dude, Cammy looks like she could squish my body with with her thighs like a watermelon. She looks like she could flatten me. Like, really, if there's something I look for in a woman, it's somebody that can murder me with the strength of their thighs.
All right, well, I guess that's what you get.
For my guy, because Cammy is really my gal, I think I gotta get into Street Fighter just because she hot, dude. Like,
See?
it's a little excessive. Plus, I imagine there's just so much porn. There probably a lot.
Yeah, 100% there definitely is. There's no way.
For
there's
my
not.
guy, I'm just gonna say it's Ryu. Sure, whatever, dude. He's chiseled. He looks like a cool guy. He could shoot energy out of his hands like fucking Goku. That's cool. Like, I don't know how you do it. Technically, I think it's like a ki blast, but that's cool. I mean, that's a cop-out answer as well because I don't know anything about Street Fighter other than Cammy hot, dude.
All right, there you go.
Yeah,
That's
at
your
least I
answer.
didn't choose a green boy, though. I didn't choose knockoff Hulk. So,
yo, man, don't you mess with Blanca.
and lastly, John, the founder of Parallax Media, writes in and says, Google Stadia seems like a flop right out the gate. Will stream-only gaming ever be the norm?
No. I mean,
pause for dramatic effect.
Yeah,
No.
you gotta. I mean, of course. It's up there with the fuck 'em. Like,
yeah, this is good. I mean, great comedic timing. I
Thank you.
really appreciate it.
Thank you. I've been working on it. Honest answer though, is still no. At least not anywhere in the near future. Game streaming, I don't think will become like the norm, so to speak, unless it's like we're talking about, like 60, 50 some odd years out. And granted, technology is crazily, like, very rapidly changing and becoming better and increasing in performance and speed and whatnot. But like from an infrastructure standpoint, in the United States at least, we are nowhere near a place where it will be able to become the norm.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same way. Like, I think game streaming is a really, really cool idea, and I absolutely understand the people who bought into it hoping that it is going to, like, they're helping it get off the ground, but I'm not going to buy into it. I don't currently believe in it. I think amazing idea, but execution is key, and so far, Stadia has not done much to really, like, to really sate me, to show me anything. They don't have like necessarily any exclusive games. They only have like third-party games so far. Like I don't know. They haven't really lived up to it, but that's not necessarily what he asked. Do I ever think it'll be the norm? Like you said, actually it's the exact opposite. I do think it will actually be the norm eventually, but like you said, in a long time from now. First, we've got to worry about getting internet down, like getting our infrastructure fixed and getting everybody fiber, getting everybody up to date with technology. And then after that, I think streaming will become the norm. But I mean, there's also the weird, like, added, I mean, the added issues of you don't really own any of the games. Like, that's...
See, that, yeah.
I don't like that.
That's kind of where this is weird for me, especially since, like, from Stadia's model, you pay for the games just like you would in any other service, but you don't actually have the game downloaded anywhere. So at any time it could go away, technically, and you always have to be connected to something to play on it. So it's like, maybe if there was a decrease in the price to get those because you're just streaming off of a service, I think it would be an easier buy-in. But in this kind of like day and age, I don't think that it makes sense for you to go fully into it. There's obviously the caveat that, oh, well, if you don't have a device and you want to play off of, whatever, and maybe like this does work for certain people, but just from a person who already has consoles, who has a PC, like I can't justify paying the full price for that game, not actually owning it. And basically I could have just bought it and owned it and had it somewhere else and played it whenever I wanted.
Yeah, I will say that I think the best thing that streaming, like stream only, will do, as long as it's not like, oh, you have to have, like, if you could do it in like your web browser or on your phone, similar to like xCloud or what Stadia is trying to do. I love that the barrier to entry for like gaming will be so low.
Right.
You don't like you said, you don't have to have the console. You don't have to have all of this technology. Instead, you could just have what you have to live, like possibly a computer, a phone. You could have any of these just normal everyday things. And I think that streaming will actually help gaming become more of just a normal thing. Like, it is already a normal thing. It's pretty mainstream now. Yeah. Let's be real. But I feel like eventually everyone is going to play games when there is no barrier to entry. It's just maybe you'll pay like a subscription service. And I should say, if there is no barrier to entry with like hardware, they're definitely going to gouge you in some way. Like,
Right,
let's be real.
exactly.
They'll be like, we saved you $400. Now you are required to spend $400. I don't know, but yeah.
We'll see.
I feel like, I don't know how. I just kind of thought about this. How do you think actually like microtransactions and stuff like that will change with the advent of streaming? Because like streaming comes around, you don't require the technology, so that is a way for them to make money, and it still technically benefits you in some way. Do you think microtransactions will become more prevalent because of it?
That's an interesting take. I don't think that the lack of hardware will push developers who are more focused now on software in general to want to try to push, a different amount of those in-game purchase type deals. I think what this might come into, though, is certain situations where you're essentially buying into like a Google Stadia ecosystem or streaming service where they're going to have different, and they already do this, where they have different data caps to, how high quality can you go, but probably stupid things like the same thing you have in Xbox, where you can customize your profile and play into creating an emoji character and doing things like they'll have like, oh, the Google Stadia streaming, like customize your character, pay $1 and you can buy a hat or something, like stupid little things like that will try to keep Stadia from making money in their ecosystem to keep you in there and to customize it in certain ways. But I don't think that'll affect the software that comes through, because essentially they don't really care, and obviously they care to some degree, but they don't really care where it's going to, as long as people have the ability to play it. If it's first party, like, I definitely agree, but then you're still going to have the same concept of like, if it's on Stadia, it's more of, I don't think it's going to be like a first party that we have from Sony. It's going to be more of just a company that made a deal with Stadia or Google to actually release their game only there.
Yeah, or one of like the studios that like Google has now opened exclusively to develop games for Stadia.
Right. Yeah, I mean, maybe, because there's some cool things that you could do with that, obviously, to sync up certain things about your Stadia account with a game if it's a first party, kind of configuration. I don't know what that would look like, really. I'm kind of racking my brain about it, but I'm sure there's things that they could think of. But that would be so far and few in between, just because it would only be, for the most part, those first party titles, whatever comes from Google specifically.
Yeah. I should actually say that I don't think just because you won't buy hardware, the developer's going to gouge you, by the way. I shouldn't say that I believe in the worst of developers. I've just kind of wondered about that. Not worried. I've wondered if like the ecosystem will change because we're spending less to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps. It depends, because we have also been so reluctant to change the main price of a video game for years. Like, at least from America, the standard like $60 price tag has been a thing for as long as I can remember now. Yeah,
you're not like paying $200 for an NES cart and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I don't know, granted, not to say that I don't think it will change, but it has been very stagnant. And that's kind of why things like loot boxes and, in-game purchases have come about, because that's their ticket into, well, we can only make $60. We need to, find a way to make more money, basically.
Yeah, like the cost to actually make games has like gone up and up, so they still have to make a profit. So then they have to put in stuff like microtransactions and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with streaming. I think we both agree that even if it becomes a norm, it's not going to be for a long time. Right. But cross your fingers, I get Google Fiber sometime in Idaho in my lifetime.
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows?
That's about it for this episode of Indie Incursion and Indie Games Podcast, the 59th episode.
We did it, guys.
We're getting there.
We're still in it.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys like this show and you want to chat with us outside of it, you can follow me at Hyde Legion on Twitter. You can follow Josh at _George90, and you can follow the podcast at IndiePod, where we put out a tweet where you can actually write in your questions. You can ask us what kind of animals we would use as gonorrhea grenades, what thick boys and girls exist within Street Fighter, and, an actual intellectual question. Thanks for that, John.
The actual video game questions. I mean, really, whatever you want to ask us, we'll do our best to answer it, or completely ignore the question like Vaughn normally does with Chris's questions.
Typically, yes. That's exactly what I do. I actually didn't realize till I read the question that I had to choose both a guy and a girl.
You're a fool. You're a fool.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I guess I'll just choose Ryu. Because I was too busy thinking about how hot Cammy is, dude.
I mean, should have picked her.
That's true. That's true. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys would actually like to, and I really, really hope you will, go to iTunes, give us a review. Make sure you also check out all of the other podcasts within the HP Video Game Podcast Network. They're fantastic. There's a lot of really cool ones like the Life and Times of Video Games, the HP Podcast, Active Quest, the Classic Gaming Podcast. There's a shitload of games in this podcast network, or podcasts in this podcast games network. So games in this podcast network. So make sure you check them out. There's a lot of really cool ones. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.